What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Forsberg, and welcome back to another season of Drift Response. I just got back from a long road trip meeting up with my buddy Ryan for a new episode of Tuerck coming out soon. But let's get to those questions. Alright, first question, we got Outerun Luxana. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. It says, Chris, what power does the truck make from the factory, and are you going to leave the engine stock or not? Well, we're definitely not going to leave the engine stock. We're always looking for some more power, but from the factory it makes over 300 horsepower and 555 foot-pounds of torque. And now that's a lot of power to be slaying some tires or to pull a nice heavy trailer like this. But we do have some mods coming up in the later episodes. You're just going to have to stay tuned to find out. Hey Ryan, what is the power goal of your FRS?
I don't necessarily really have a power goal for my FRS. It's more or less to make plenty of power to do exactly what I needed to do, and that is to burn tires. And I think a sufficient amount of horsepower for my street car is anything around 700 or so.
Aaron Kuhn asked, what are some good first mods to do on a BRZ/FRS to set up for drifting if you're on a budget? Well, Aaron, this goes for pretty much all cars, and when someone asks me how to set it up, I tell them that the first mods that I would ever do to a car is diff, seat, and then coilovers. Diff is important because it locks up your rear wheels and gets them, turn at the same speed. You're not going to have any, wavering, having issues transitioning through corners. Puts the power down nice and even through the rear wheels. Allows a lot of control with the throttle. Next would be a seat. Sounds a little redundant, and now with some of the newer cars like an FRS or BRZ, they have pretty good bolstering, but on the older cars like S13s, S14s, RX-7s, any of those cars, they have real flat seats, so you're getting thrown around a lot. And so I tell people to get a bucket seat because it literally holds you in place, especially when you have a new car and you're learning, so you're getting thrown around a lot, but you want to be planted to the car. You also can feel a lot more of what the car is doing, and you have a nice good grip of that steering wheel, and you can do your inputs that much easier. And then obviously coilovers will be the next thing to stabilize your car. Gets a little lower to the ground, better center of gravity, and also allows you to adjust not only the ride height, but the shock dampening as well.
Our YouTube user, Nathan Long, asked, Ryan, for your street legal FRS, what's your suspension setup like? Toe, in, out, camber, also called alignment settings. Also, what coils are you running on it? Thanks. Nathan, I'm currently running for the front of the car, tiny bit of toe in the front end. Camber is static from the Wisefab kit, right around 5.5, 6 degrees. The rear, I'm running 0 degrees of camber, and maybe about a 1/4 inch of toe in overall. Over both sides. The suspension I'm running is the BC Racing ZR Type 3-way adjustable coilovers that we also run in the Pro car as well.
Alright, next up we have Animal Orgy. He asks, would you ever consider trying to build a diesel V8 drift car? Well, that seems like a pretty tricky build. It would be a lot of weight up front. The V8's add a lot of weight, but doing a diesel V8 might be a little too heavy. It's going to get really nose heavy. You're going to have to move a lot of weight to the back to really offset that to make it be a good handling drift car. And I have seen a couple diesel drift cars out there, rolling smoke. It looks pretty cool, but they are a little slow with the power delivery sometimes. So as it would be a fun car and pretty different, so to speak, but I don't know if I'd recommend it for a first car, but it definitely would be something different to bring out to the track.
Tristan Fuller asks, did you ever believe you would be in a Formula D circuit? What inspired you to get there? Thanks, and shred on. Thanks for the question, Tristan. I didn't know what was going to happen in drifting. It was so early on, and the sport was kind of in its infancy as I was getting into it as well. So all I knew is that I wanted to get better and progress my skills the best they could get, and competition is the best way to test yourself. So Formula D was the pinnacle of drifting in the States, or still is the pinnacle of drifting in the States, and that's where I wanted to be and compete. So it's just a goal of mine when I was younger to get into the series and run it full time. Did I know it was going to last this long or where it was going to take me? Absolutely not. Definitely stoked on everything that's happened, and try to just keep pushing to the next level.
All right, next question we have from Sean Martin. He asked, what are the benefits to an anti-lag system? And this might be a better question for Ryan since he's been running it for the past year, but I do know that an anti-lag system, what it does is it introduces fresh air into the exhaust manifold to get a little bit of extra burn when you're off throttle to keep that turbo spooled. And so with the turbo car, you normally have a lot of turbo lag. As you back out of the throttle, the boost drops, you roll back into the pedal. It takes a second to get the air back through the engine, get some combustion through the exhaust manifold, through the turbo, get that boost built back up. So with the anti-lag system, it's actually redirecting air from the fresh air inputs in the car directly to the turbo, and it keeps that turbo spinning the entire time. So it really adds for quick power response and even faster throttle control.
Jake from State Farm asks, what's your preference, NA, turbo, or supercharger, and why? That's a pretty broad question with a lot of variables involved because of all just different power bands and different disciplines on what you're using the car for. But I guess generally speaking, my favorite is a turbocharger just because I just love the way it sounds. I love the way you can tune the power into the car for almost anything needed discipline-wise, and it's just a blast to drive. I love just the other components that go along with it, and the tuning that you can do, which can just easily achieve more power. Where naturally aspirated cars, you have to build it from scratch to be able to make the amount of power that you want. Where a turbo, you can just add some more fuel and air and get some sweet tuning on it to make more power if you want.
All right, our next question comes from Mr. C Bike. He says, if you could import any car from Japan, what would it be? Well, there are a lot of cars in Japan that I think are really cool that we never got in the States. Obviously, the first one that I would think of is the Skyline Gt-R. Very cool car from Nissan, all-wheel drive, RB26, tons of power, and just an all-around crazy car to drive. You can even set them up to be rear-wheel drive and go drifting with them. You can, leave it all-wheel drive, go road racing, go drag racing. Very universal car, very fun. However, highly illegal to have in the States until they got the Gt-R from Nissan back in 2008. So it is a very cool car, and I'd love to see some of those come over a little more often.
That's it for this week's response video. Keep those questions and comments coming, and make sure you tune in to next week's episode of Drift Garage.